Hello there. What's crack? I like it. I don't know what that look. I'm Scotty. You're not. Well, Fear Street Prom Queen. So the title. Back in 2021, they released that Fear Street trilogy. Trilogy is what I said. Trilogy. Hinted at things to come, and then they announced the next chapter would be Fear Street Prom Queen, which looked like it was pretty much not connected to that. And yeah, it's a standalone story until it isn't. Very, 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 very loosely connected. It shares Shadyside and Sunnyvale are mentioned. They're in Shadyside. They're both mentioned, and there's one thing at the end. But other than that, no real connections. I was even trying to listen for character last names. Like, oh, this could be Dina's mom, or it could be Sam's mom, or dad, but all of these characters get killed off. So none of the characters could be connected to those, so I get it. It also differs from the book because the killer reveal is different in the book. I also had because it's Netflix and because they like to do this, I had a one-track mind of who the killer was. And it wasn't because they tried to mislead you with that. I just was like, I have a feeling this is how it's going to be. It's this killer and they're doing it for this reason. What was I wrong? They also make a mistake of revealing something that I was just like, okay. Then when they reveal the killer, it's sort of just left there. You're like, okay, but what about this? Because you already revealed something. I'm not trying to spoil right away. Overall, I would say that this movie is, well, it's a movie that takes place in 1988. That's generic. It's a generic slasher, which kind of fits in with the slashers from 1988, to be honest. And again, I wasn't around then. Well, I was, but I was like 1 year old. I was a little baby bambino. I was a little 1 year old baby, pooing my pants and all that shit. I wasn't invested in the music or the hair or anything. I barely had hair. I barely have hair now. But, yeah. So, the music choices, the clothing, all that stuff. So what's the story? Well, the story is that there's this girl named Lori Granger. And many moons earlier, her dad was murdered, and her mom was suspected of the murder but never got charged. And that looms over Shadyside. And, yeah. And so that she's an outcast because of that. And she has this rival named Tiffany, because that's the typical popular girl name. She's with the popular clique group, and she wants to be the prom queen, and Lori wants to be the prom queen so that she can finally outgrow her outsiderness. Her best friend is Megan, who is the generic, typical pot-smoking best friend. And I would just say this. One big discrepancy. If this was a movie that came out in the 80s, these characters would both be guys. And it would be like a female best friend of theirs who wants to win the prom queen and not them. But they're both girls because that's the way everything has to be nowadays. And I'm not saying anything wrong, but I'm just saying. I feel like the film rushes through, because we get like a day in school, maybe 2 days, and then all of a sudden we're at the prom, and I'm like, because at one point Tiffany's showing out for dress, and I'm like, we're not there already, right? We've barely built any of these characters up. we don't really know anything. We know that Lori has a history with her family. We know that Tiffany doesn't like her, and the rest of her friends are bitches, like Tiffany is. And their several boyfriends are also dicks, except for one, whose name is Tyler, who also has a thing for Lori. Lori has a thing for him, sort of thing. Although his character never gets much to do anything, and when it's about to be revealed that he's a pervert and just wants to have sex with her, he gets killed before anything can happen. So I don't know. But yeah, we have like a couple of days in school. We see that the best friend is the pranker, right? And then later she pranks and puts the head, right? The head of Tiffany, a fake head, in the punch. And I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm going, I know it's probably a mislead, but just the way that the character is acted out and portrayed, I was like, I was like, okay, so is it going to be revealed that it's actually the best friend Megan who's the killer, and she did it because she's secretly in love with Lori, and she killed all of them so she could become prom queen? That feels very much in the zeitgeist of what modern, characters, especially for Netflix, have to be. You have to have at least one lesbian character, which I thought this character was going to be, but they said they love each other, but it's just best friends. They never really go that route. So I thought that that's what was going to be revealed, but there's a moment where we see a kill and then it cuts to her. And it's like, okay, so it's not her. Yeah. There's also one point where we see that there are actually 2 killers. Though, when the killing started, I was a little nervous. A little concerned, maybe, because, like, the first kill is some girl out in the middle of nowhere, really. It's like in the middle of a parking lot, and the killer comes up and just hacks her. Okay. But the gore in this is actually decent. There's some decent gore. There's some kills that got a laugh out of me. The killer, there's a point where the killer comes into the actual prom area. We'll get to why this scene is kind of stupid, why it doesn't work. But, like, he comes in, he chops off this girl's... First of all, both Lori and Megan come running in, and this girl grabs Megan and he starts, like, harassing her. Then the killer comes in, chops off this girl's arm, and then her boyfriend or whatever just goes going, ah! And gets his head chopped off, and I laughed. I'm sorry. It made me laugh. And then the principal gets his arm chopped off. He's fine. And then they just put his arm in front of him, like, there you go. And you go, his one running line in this is, Jeepers, I think is what it is. Jeepers. Chris Klein is in this, and did a very good job of making one of the most good-looking guys of the 90s look like stereotypical 80s house dad. They give him a gut. He doesn't look like this in real life. You are not telling me this is what he has grown to look like. 'Cause I saw him on The Flash quite a few years ago, but he did not look. No, this has to be some kind of judgment. Look like stereotypical 80s house dad, like the Ted from Stranger Things. You just need a pair of glasses and then fall asleep in a chair. Thanks, Ted. But yeah. So after a bunch of other students are chopping up to pieces. Okay, I gotta voice my hate for Judd. Okay, you got this guy, this student of theirs, who is happy. He's like, I'm the DJ, I get to be DJ. Yeah, I'm your funk master. And he's like, hey, yo. They're like, who wants to listen to Prince? And he's like, hey, no, none of that shit. This is the playlist, and that's all you do. And I'm just like, what a dick. And he has to stick to that. Because it's like... And then there's a point where Jug gets killed and disappears, and they don't pay it off. They don't play Prince. They play another song, and they're like, hey, this isn't on Judd's playlist. And he's like, Judd has been gone. I haven't seen Judd in a while. And I'm just like, why isn't this Prince? It should be Prince. There's a payoff to the Gloria line when she's like, when Lori says, play Gloria, and John's like, no, you stick to the playlist. And then when Lori and Tiffany do a dance-off for some reason that makes no sense, they're just like in each other's face, and all of a sudden the guy's like, dance-off! And they just start going, and I'm like, why? Why? Huh? Like, they have a dance-off, which Lori wins, but they're dancing to Gloria, so there's that payoff. But they never pay off the Prince. Did I not have enough money to play Prince? Then mention a different song. Mention a different artist then. If you're not going to pay that off. I was waiting. As soon as you asked, okay, we're going to have Prince now. Nothing. And then it gets down to our two main girls, right? Megan, Lori. They're being chased around by the killer. There are red herrings in here. I think Judd's supposed to be one, but he's not pushed enough. You think it could be this nerdy kid that has some issues, I guess. And then they bring him up. And then it could be the janitor, maybe, because he kind of hates his job. By the way, so the principal or teacher or whatever tells the janitor, hey, why don't you go check the circuit breakers? And he's like, oh, well, I stick them out my ass while I'm at it. And clean the floor while I'm at it. I'm like, you're a janitor. It's your job to go do that stuff. Hello, that's my job. Hello? I don't check circuit breakers, but I don't know. I don't understand that. He ends up dead anyway, so I don't know. But the killer chases them out. So they decide they need to go back, make their way back so that people can see. So this whole thing has been building up. You see that these candidates are being slashed. It's all the candidates and their boyfriends are being killed. So you think, okay. So, like, my idea was Megan. Obviously, that's not true. I'm like, okay, so it has to be like Tiffany. Then there's two killers. I'm like, okay, so is it Tiffany and Tyler? At one point, though, Tyler breaks up with her and heads for... He breaks up with Tiffany and heads for Lori. And it's like, okay, so is he not one of the killers? Well, then I said they run back into the room, into the auditorium, where they decide, here, they announce Lori as prom queen. And it's the most, like, hey, the prom queen is Lori Spangler, or whatever her name is, and put it on, and it's like, what? They don't even announce the prom queen. This is her, and she freaks out. The killer shows up. Like I said, they get, like, Megan is held back, and then the arm chop and the head chop, and he gets up there, he chops the principal, and then she stabs him in the eye with the tiara, and he's like, ugh, takes the mask off, and it's Chris Klein, who was their teacher and also Tiffany's dad, and now he's talking in his cicada voice from The Flash. They don't care about the details, just who wins. Is very cicada voice. And I did say, you know, he could be a candidate for the killer. It won't be a teacher. Teachers are too boring. Well, and then goes like, Daddy! And they take him away. And I'm like, okay. What the second killer? Hello? No, because we gotta have a unnecessary secondary climax, right? With a reveal, because it has to be connected to the backstory of our main character somehow. This unnecessary fourth act made me roll my eyes so hard because it's so... I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Shouldn't it be over? Shouldn't we have roll credits? We get the scene where she and Megan are talking by the medical facility wagon, the ambulance, right? Ambulance. By the ambulance. So, that's it, right? No, instead they tell Nancy, who is the wife of Chris Klein, played by Catherine Waterston from Alien Covenant. Shaw? Or is that the one? I don't know. She was in that one. Anyway. So, she's told she has to stay behind to answer questions or whatever. For some reason. And so, Laurie volunteers to go back with Tiffany because they live across the street from each other. Cool. This whole secondary climax, unnecessary fourth act, could have worked had they done it right. Right? So she ends up staying there with her, and then the mom comes home and immediately, okay, she's the second killer. Kind of obvious, because the look on her face when she's like, you have to stay behind. What? Like she had something else in mind, and like she goes, and they're like, she's like, Mommy? Why is she talking like she's 4? They run and hide, and then it's revealed that Tiffany is also involved, so she knew what was going on. She tries to stab Laurie, and they fight. And like, the freaking Tiffany gets it. She's thrown off the balcony. She gets king botched from the babysitter. When King Botch gets thrown off the thing, lands on the thing, she gets thrown off there, and she gets that, which makes the mom freak out. I didn't realize they were on the second floor till she flung her over through the balcony. I'm like, I thought they were downstairs already. Then the chase goes downstairs, where we get this kills her, because like she breaks the thing behind her, grabs one of the trophies, hits her in the head. She goes, like, would that kill someone? I guess if they bled out, but that's it. She lays there, and then Laurie leaves, and credits. Oh, I forgot the most important part. You see, before they kill off both of those characters, it's revealed that it was Nancy who killed her dad. Yeah, it was Tiffany's mom who killed Laurie's dad. And she did it because Laurie's dad left her for Laurie's mom. And I guess Laurie's mom got knocked out before it happened. Which, if she was pregnant, why would you think she was the killer? I don't know. And they've hid it all this time. Yeah. And Tiffany knew this whole time. It's such a big leap. You gotta put on my suspenders of disbelief, as Michael Rosenbaum. Put on the suspenders of disbelief, as Michael Rosenbaum would say. To think that their teenage daughter is in on it and went through with this. I don't know. But yeah, like I said, she bludgeons her with the statue, whatever, the little trophy thing, and then leaves. The movie ends. But before we get to the little twist, I want to talk about how it wouldn't just be so cut and dry. So, like, eventually the cops are going to show up at that house, and they're going to find both of those people dead without any explanation. But does she just walk across the street and go home? Right? As I mentioned, though, the big gripe I have is Laurie's mom should have showed up to help her. They live across the street. Maybe Laurie's mom came across the street to check on them and sees this happen. She hears the confession, and she's the one to attack Nancy. You killed my husband, you bitch. You know? And she's taking on Nancy while Laurie takes on Tiffany. Boom. Laurie could still have the final thing. Maybe Laurie's mom gets stabbed and is taken out, but she's not dead, she's just hurt. I don't know. But the fact that Laurie's mom despite being mentioned several times about this big story she's seen a couple times, is not a bigger part. It's kind of a letdown to me. But here's the big thing that had me going, huh? Because if this is supposed to be disconnected, after, we get the end of the movie, credits start, and there's a mid-credit scene that cuts back to the dead body, and the blood pouring out of her head forms the witch's symbol from the trilogy, the Seraphir symbol, the symbol of the good family that did that. You know what I mean? If you don't remember, it was the good family who were responsible for making other people kill people. So, is this supposed to be in that list? And Lil Peanut, Benjamin Flores Jr.'s research, that because they thought it wasn't connected, even though if the blood made the symbol, at no point do they seem to be under the curse control. And if that's the case, killing them would not stop them. And the fact that the dad is taken into police custody would also mean that the curse wouldn't just be passed. He's not dead. And it's not that it possessed the whole family. See what I'm saying? They're trying to connect it. The director of those movies, Lee Janiak, was a producer on this. I don't know if she had anything to do with this, but at some point someone said we have to have some kind of connection. That was CGI. The blood formed. I'm not complaining about CGI, by the way. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, what was the point of that? I was always trying to figure out, I was waiting for something to be connected to that, because you can take liberties with the story. The killer in the books is someone named Simone, who's a student. It's not even a character in this movie, so I don't know. I was trying to remember if I read this book, and I don't know. Because I did read a few of the Fear Streets when I was in high school. The fuck if I can remember anything about them. I don't know. But, like I said, this was generic. We didn't get... Maybe if you made this a TV series that's like 5 episodes long, we don't get any kind of... Other than Laurie, we don't get a real backstory. Also, Megan is written out of this as, she's going to the hospital for a cut on her fucking hand. You don't go to the hospital with that. You go home, you put a Band-Aid on it, maybe a little Neosporin, or back then, Campylphenol, which is what I still use, by the way. Sab, maybe they used it back then. Why would you be taken to the hospital for a cut on your hand? So it's like that. That's it. It's like maybe that long, that big. Look, she cut it on some window glass. That's it. Why is she going to the hospital? Because they didn't want her to be a part of the climax. That's the only reason why she's not. She's taken to the hospital. Otherwise, who goes to the hospital for a cut on their hand like that? You put a Band-Aid, you'll be fine in the morning. I guess maybe she might need stitches, but come on. It seems very... I'm like, wait, she's going to the hospital for a cut on her hand? Okay. I mean, taking her ambulance and everything. And when she's like, I'm going with you. What is this, a taxi service? Also saying, no, you need it for the climax somewhere else. A hospital chase would have been better, though, instead of somewhere in the middle of suburbia. Think about it. She goes with her, and then she's chased for the hospital by the second killer, where it's revealed to be Nancy. Right? I don't know. But I'm giving this the middle of the road. It was generic. Which, if this was a horror movie, a slasher film that came out in 1988, I think it would fit in with that very much. But yeah, it's the middle of the road. I didn't have high hopes to begin with because I knew it wasn't going to be connected to the other ones, but you know. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Fear Street Prom Queen? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm this guy, and I'll see you in the next one.